Well, the case versus the SEC versus Ripple is getting more and more mainstream coverage. In this video, I'm going to talk about what Forbes just wrote about in their article, basically outlining the absolute annihilation that Judge Netburn just did in her latest order against the SEC, and Forbes is spot on in their assessment. Also, they point out something that's going to happen in Congress this week that's very interesting. A digital asset investor who is one of the more active crypto Twitter, XRP Twitter user accounts that you're going to want to go follow. He's been on this case of the SEC versus Ripple, ETHgate, a lot of the dirt that's been dug up on Twitter. He has been front and center. He actually pointed out something that Judge Netburn might be alluding to in the fact that she's not very happy with the SEC attorneys, and we're talking disbarment. Also, we're going to talk about the price action of Bitcoin heading to $10,000 because there are now multiple sources and multiple indicators that suggest yes, we are going there. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel, we're covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all those topics interest you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Late Night Grind community. Also, if you do a couple of things, I'd appreciate it. Smash the thumbs up button, watch this video to the end, and of course, check out my Patreon, link in the description below. And before I move on, I wanted to say a big thank you to all the new Patreons that have signed up. I do have a schedule of more content coming out this week. Some of the picks and information that I already have in there are continuing to do well, and I'm going to have a few more this upcoming week, so keep an eye out for that. So if you're already subscribed, once again, a big thank you for that. There will be some better communications, and of course, there will be some more altcoin picks and things to pay attention to that I don't cover on this channel. All right, guys, if you did all that, I really appreciate it. So let's jump into it. Okay, let's talk Bitcoin to $10,000 because that dictates, well, a lot of the narratives, a lot of the headlines, a lot of the articles, and a lot of things in the crypto space, pretty much all around. There are now multiple indicators pointing to a $10,000 Bitcoin. Now, I've been saying this for a couple of months now, slowly, because there have only been a few people that said, listen, it could go as low as $10,000. There's a few technical indicators that are pointing that way. Well, guess what? There's now more technical analysts that are jumping on board that train and saying, yeah, they were probably right. It looks like, at least from a technical perspective, $10,000 is going to be possible. Now, obviously, we have to get through 15 and 14,000. We have to get through a couple other resistance levels to get there. I've even heard 7,000 mentioned once or twice. But it looks like from a psychological perspective, everybody's kind of looking at that $10,000 level as a big psychological barrier or jumping off point, depending on how you look at this. So recently, two polls came out, one from China, which is interesting because they supposedly banned cryptocurrencies. And not only did this poll come out of China, this poll came out from a social media platform located in China. Now, number one, I thought Bitcoin was banned in China. And number two, I thought social media was banned in China. Unless, of course, all this information is state approved by the Communist Party, in which case, do you really believe it or not? But that's probably for another video. But nonetheless, they just came out with a poll in which several thousand people answered about Bitcoin. Now, here's the thing that I thought was really interesting and how it's kind of a head scratcher. So 8% of the respondents said they wouldn't buy Bitcoin until it hit 18,000. 26% said they wouldn't buy it until it hit 15,000. 40% of respondents say they would buy Bitcoin if it dropped to 10,000. Now, if those numbers sound somewhat familiar, it's probably because Bloomberg's investor survey that just came out about 2 weeks ago said pretty close to the same thing, that there is a huge swath of people that say, listen, if Bitcoin gets to $10,000 to $12,000, I'm all in. So that's one of those indicators that, yeah, it's not a technical indicator, but it's a psychological indicator that when multiple polls and thousands of people supposedly are responding that, yeah, if Bitcoin hits $10,000, I'm going all in. Well, guess what? You better get your buy orders in for $10,000. In fact, some of the technical analysis guys that I watch, a couple of them have buy orders in as low as $7,000, even $6,000. They don't necessarily expect it to hit, but just in case, you might get lucky. Okay, so what's the technical indicator that points to a $10,000 Bitcoin? Well, that's something called a bear flag. That's it. Just a simple trend analysis called a bear flag, in which basically you have a price drop and you have some consolidation, which basically forms a flag. Typically, that signals that price is going to continue to drop, which is why it's called a bear flag. In a bear market, prices drop. So it's nothing super technical to look at, but when you line it up with all these other indicators, it's no wonder that a lot of people are getting their buy orders in at $10,000. And if that's the case, you could see a massive pump once Bitcoin actually hits that price. If it does, it's going to rubber band extremely quick and jump back into maybe 15, 20K pretty darn quick, but we're gonna have to see. Okay, so now I wanna talk about the Ripple versus the SEC case. Digital asset investor who is super active on Twitter in the XRP community, he posted something that I saw and I thought was pretty humorous at first, but the more I looked into it, I was like, there could be something more to it. He tweeted out a picture of the word disbar. Now, in the legal world, basically what that means is you did something wrong. You are not allowed to practice law anymore. You essentially lose your lawyer's license. Did Judge Neprin actually say something in her recent denial of the SEC that could point to something or allude to a disbarment of some of the SEC attorneys? So here's what the actual reason for disbarment could be. Whether the lawyer has violated a duty of the client to the public, or to the legal system or the profession. And in her recent denial, she actually said the statement that this suggests that the SEC is adopting its litigation positions to further its desired goal. In other words, putting its desired outcome ahead of actual law, and not out of faithful alliance to the law. And the XRP community says, boom. Now, I don't think she was necessarily suggesting disbarment, but when people start picking up on wording like this, that should actually scare some of the SEC attorneys that are working this case that, you know what, maybe things are getting a little too crazy. I don't want to be disbarred over something like this in a case that looks like it's a lost cause. Of course, I can't say that out loud. But nonetheless, it was a really interesting find. So Digital Asset Investor, I'll put a link in the description below. You can go follow him on Twitter. Really appreciate him picking up on things like that. Doesn't necessarily help out XRP, but nonetheless, it's fun to see. And now I'm going to talk about what the Forbes article just wrote about Judge Neprin's recent denial of the SEC. Now, Forbes, for several months, I'm going to say about 6 months now, we've seen several articles come out of Forbes that have been extremely bullish on XRP and seemingly on the side of Ripple without actually saying it. Now, it could either be that or the fact that they just like to call things as it is. They like to call a spade, and when you look at this case, it very much favors Ripple. So Forbes' recent article pointed out the denial of the SEC of their attorney-client privilege assertion and how they're trying to hide these emails, what Judge Neprin said and all that. He points out, in this article points out how Judge Neprin basically tore them apart, in fact, calling them hypocrites, which I said on my latest video, which that is extremely strong talk for a judge talking to SEC attorneys. Now the point of this article was that how Congress, U.S. Congress, should heed her words. Because coming up next week is something really interesting. The House Financial Oversight Committee has an oversight hearing next Tuesday for the SEC's Enforcement Division. Anything going on in the SEC's Enforcement Division that they might want to talk about? So right now, the head of that department is Maxine Waters, who of course is a Democrat, very liberal. However, she's kind of seen as a tenacious dog when going after some of the financial issues, financial regulation, where it comes from, who it's actually benefiting, who it's not benefiting. And she would be the one in charge of this. And now hopefully she and the rest of the Financial House Services Committee would be able to ask some questions to the SEC representatives in terms of, listen, are you trying to prove your alliance to the law? Or are you trying to prove your alliance to the SEC, or even worse, yourselves personally? So the SEC is going to have some answering to do next Tuesday. That's going to be an interesting one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I will tweet out that information because I did see it on Twitter as well. All right, guys, I want to thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. Of course, for smashing that thumbs up button, for supporting this Patreon. All those things really do help out YouTubers. All right, guys, and as always, I'll see you on the next video.